friends, my name is Mick. I've put together this little small segment for those of you that happen to like tamales, because myself, I love the heck out of them because I can't get enough of them. I remember as a kid my mother and my grandmother used to make tamales every year, right around New Year's evening, Christmas Eve, somewhere along that line. But they'd make like 10 or 12 dozen tamales at a time. And as the years progressed, I got to loving them so much that I just got to thinking, I would like to make some tamales for myself, even though it's, I've gotten older, I live by myself, and well, I've gotten to kind of experiment with quite a few things, different recipes, different things, but tamales always stuck in the back of my head that I've always liked to make because I've always liked to eat them. And as I know, for those of you that are Mexican and have the old traditional things, a way of making things, I know society has a way of, twisting things around, adding new additions to things, and, don't get me wrong, I love tamales and I love all the new things out there, but some people make different kinds of tamales that, like pineapple tamales, come on, please. But anyway, enough of that. I put this segment together just briefly. It's called Cook This, Eat That. And the reason why I'm saying it like that is because, well, you cook something, you want to eat that, okay? And so much for that, But in any event, I've made a few other recipes as well, like taquitos. I'm not sure if I did a video clip on those. But anyway, let's get what I'm starting with here is the tamales. And I want to start off with the basic things because I know a lot of people traditionally start with stuff that, for the most part, one of the main things is the masa, which you can get anywhere, Walmart, Food Lion, even your Mexican stores like Compare Foods, which I'm waiting for them to open up in Spring Lake. I don't know when that's going to happen. But in any event, they have a lot of Mexican stuff. And I went there to the Fayetteville one when I started several years back, and I wanted to make tamales. That's where I bought all my ingredients from, which basically consists of, like I said, the masa. Oh shoot, and I forgot one other ingredient, which is also a critical one, and that's called lard. Of course, you can use shortening. I wouldn't suggest using vegetable oil because it doesn't really call for that. If you're going to stick to traditional methods, you want to stick to the stuff that's consistent of what basic recipe calls for, and that's lard. When you mix those two ingredients together, lard and the masa, which depending on how many you want to make, I've made starting with a small portion of pork. Some people use beef, some people use chicken, some people use pineapple, But anyway, the basic meat is like pork loin, okay? And then you take the pork loin and if it's already thawed, that's fine. You just cut it into portions. Make sure that you trim all the fat off. And then if you happen to have a cooker, which I have one right here, and I take it and after I portion it out and cut them into small chunks, I'll stick it into the cooker right there. Roughly maybe a couple hours, 6, 7, 8 hours. So it cooks really well to the point where the meat falls apart literally, okay? You take a couple of forks together and you spread it apart and the meat falls apart really well. That's the consistency that you want. You want it to be perfect, okay? When you take the masa, when you take the meat, after you take the meat, you mix it with some sauce. Okay, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I know with the pork loin you want to add, when you're cooking the pork loin, you want to add garlic, salt, some bay leaves, which I don't happen to have here, and that's pretty much about it. But after you cook that, and you want to, don't throw away the juices, because the juice that you're going to use later on when you're making tamales, because that's going to be used in conjunction with using your masa as the liquid form. Okay, but while that's been cooking and that's all separated and everything, you want to add what is normally how you make your sauce. And what a lot of Mexicans do is they use several different kinds of chilies. I made a big major mistake because I know See, what you take these chilies and you separate them. You take them out of the pack and you separate the chilies. You separate this, take off all the seeds, and you get you a blender and first you soften the skins, right? You take the skins, put them in a pot, and you soak them for a while until they become soft and limp. Once that's the case, then you put them in a blender. You blend them, which is going to give you your sauce. Okay? What I did one time was I wasn't thinking. I took the chilies and I separated them, and I thought, well, I want to heat them up a little bit, maybe so I can enrich the flavor. I don't know what my mindset was at the time, but I figured I'm going to enhance the flavor of the chili. So what I did was I took the chilies and I put them on a pan, and then I stuck them in the oven and just to heat them up, literally just to heat them up a little bit. But I had forgotten about it, and I went next door, and I came back and I literally inhaled and gotten so congested, because when you inhale chili, your throat is killing. Well, that's what happened. But anyway, let's not worry about that, because I know you're not going to make that mistake like I did. But in any event, use the chilies, and once you make them into a puree, you mix that into a bowl. You mix that into a puree, and that's going to give you your sauce that you're going to use to mix with some portion of that sauce. You're going to mix with, excuse me, you're going to mix a portion of that puree with your meat. So it's going to give you that color texture, reddish texture in the meat. You're going to save some also of that sauce, because that's also going to be blended with your masa to give you some color. Now, one little tidbit that I found out, and I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, I love things doing traditional and everything like that, but you know, sometimes when you find out that you can cut corners a little bit, just a tad bit, believe me, I'm going to take advantage of it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because this right here, friends, it's called Select New Mexico Mild Red Chili Sauce. This saves you from dealing with this, okay? Because it's somebody already went ahead and did all the hard work for you, and then that sauce nicely packaged it for you so that you can buy it at your local Walmart. So you take some of that sauce, a portion of it, maybe like a third of that package right there. You mix that with your pork loin, and another portion of it which you're going to mix with your masa. Now once you got the masa, I'm going to give you another tip. Once you mix your masa and your lard, okay, you're going to mix that consistently, and you're going to knead it to a point where that masa is going to be soft to the touch when you spread it on your corn husks to make your breading. That's going to go onto the corn husk. Now, when you take some of that lard, take you a small dab of it and take you a glass of water, okay? The reason why I'm saying this is because it's a test to tell whether or not that lard is ready. If it's too light, if it's too heavy, you don't want heavy masa for one thing. That's the main thing that you want to concentrate on. You want it to be light enough. So what you do is you take a little bit of that masa into a glass of water, and you drop it into the glass of water. If that masa ball happens to float to the top, you're good to go. If it sinks to the bottom, you need to add some more lard. And the reason being, because if you don't do that, what happens is you're see the dust, because I did a lot of arranging in here just so I can get this set up here right here, so it must be the dust that I moved around. Anyway, once you get that consistency right, then you can do that, okay? Your masa is going to be ready to go. Another thing, while you're doing that, your leaves, your corn husks, which you can also get at Walmart or Compare Foods. You take your corn husks, these right here, Select Mexico, same company that makes the sauce as well. What do you know? But anyway, you take the corn husks and you get you a pot of water, and you take the corn husks, take them out of the pack, of course, and you sink whatever portion amount that you want, half the bag, whatever, sink them to the bottom, get you a heavy weight or something, a mug that's really heavy, which I used an old German mug, which was pretty heavy. I took that and you weigh it down. What you want to do is you want to submerge the leaves so that they become soft and pliable, so that once you fold your tamales, you want to be able to do that without it ripping, right? So that's what you do. You soak those for probably 30-45 minutes, okay? Once those are soaked, you get them out, you dry them, and then you lay them. What you do is you're taking 2 of these leaves, one over the other, okay? Then you're going to take your masa, which I don't have any on me right now, but you take your masa, excuse me, you take your masa, get you a spatula or your finger, your hands, whatever you want, whichever way you want to do it. Take spatula is what I do, and take spatula and you just go from your top of the corn husks, which is right here, okay? You're spreading your masa down here this way, okay? So I'm going to show you. So you know what I'm talking about. Take 2 leaves after they're soaked, of course, and you overlap, one overlaps the other. You put your masa on there, okay? And then you take your pork loin, a little bit of the pork loin after you smeared your masa in there. Take a little bit of your pork loin and sprinkle it on there, depending how much meat you want. I like mine meaty, so I'm going to add quite a bit of it. Then you take the leaf and you overlap the other like so, and the other alone laps like that. And then you take the top and you flap it down like this, okay? So your tamale is going to look like that. Which, when it comes to time to, once you make, several amount, whichever ones you want to do, you take your big pot here, which I have. And I've devised a little thing here because what you want to do is want to take your tamale and you're steam cooking them. That's the best way to make them, and that's the only way traditionally you want to make them. So what I did was, because I didn't have my grandmother, what she would do, she would take a big pot and she would take a couple of bricks. Of course, there was a lot bigger pot than this. Hers was huge. But she would take a couple of bricks and she would lay them in the bottom of the pot, and then she would lay a flat pan that had a lot of holes in it. I didn't have one on hand, so what I did was I took a strainer and I set it in the bottom of the pot like this, okay? Then I took a aluminum pan, tin foil, and I poked some holes in it because it's got to have ventilation for the steam, right? So I poked some holes in it and then I set it into the pot like so. Once I set it into the pot, then you take your tamales and you place them preferably this end up, because all your masa is going to be on this end here. You don't want it this way because everything is going to pour out. Because when the steam, what it does is going to loosen it up and it's going to pour out. So you want it facing up, so when it cooks, none of it's going to spill out of the corn husks, right? So you're going to do is you're going to place them in a circular motion, and you can basically stack them up. And then on top of that, once you get them stacked to the top, you want to take some extra corn husk and you want to lay those on top to help add to the moisture of the steam. Okay, once that's done, you set it on there, put it onto your stove, and put it on a mild heat for about roughly an hour. I would say an hour because I want them to be firmly cooked. And then once they're cooked, hey, let them cool down for a little bit and you can go to town and eat some perfectly good tamales. What I would do is I'm going to take whatever excess, and you can even freeze them. You can have them later on, a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, whatever. But they're all really good tamales, and like I said, this is one of these traditional things that I know a lot of Mexicans make, and some of them, that are not so Mexican, you know, pretend to be Mexicans. You know, I've got that Mexican blood in me, and that's one of the traditional things that I like to make. That I was raised on tamales. My grandmother made them, and her mother made them, and my mother made them, and you know, the rest of us just ate them. But they're so good, and so for all sakes put aside, you know, you can always look online. I traditionally go to allrecipes.com. If you want to find out how to make tamales, that's fine. If not, you can just, you know, check back with this video, and you can always listen to it again. And, you know, if you want to look at the actual ingredients, there's a lot of them out there that will tell you exactly. But for the most part, it counts for the lard, the masa, the sauce, the leaves. Those are the basic ingredients, the mandatory ingredients that you really need to make tamales with. And of course the pork loin and bay leaves. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody for watching this video. If you like this video, press like and subscribe to my videos, and I'll come up with some more videos on something to eat, on Cook This and Eat That. Okay? Enjoy and have a good day, and if you have a good weekend, that too. Okay? Because it's Thursday night, so tomorrow's Friday. I'm working this weekend. But anyway, see you then. Thanks.